When you start with some 3D work, what would be your first to go place?
I really like my
Individual workflow and teamwork. What do you prefer?
Honestly, I prefer.
What do you think the future of 3D is going to be? With the rise of AI?
I think, like, hey, little AI assistant, help me with my housekeeping.
Welcome to our podcast. We have with us Michael Leitmann, a CG generalist, and he worked with popular brands, Kia Motors, Coca-Cola, and NBA TV, our most favorite, right? Um, he had greatly impacted our VFX world, and it's really I'm really honored to have him here. Welcome, Michael. Welcome to our show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So to start with the interview, just give me some insights about you and just get to know our audience better.
Sure. So a little bit about me. I'm an immigrant from Kenya. I was born and raised there. And I came here when I went to high school here. So I migrated here right before I went to high school. And and in high school, I had a little senior project where I was asked, like, if you could do anything cool, what would you want to do? And I was like, I would like to learn, animation. And I thought at first it was going to be like cell animation and drawing, but then I learned about this thing called computer animation. I did my little project on that, and the rest was history. I grew up wanting to be a marine biologist, but then life has its strange little turns. And, that little high school project, I met some really cool people, some very influential people in my life, and the fork in the road, I went left, and I haven't looked back. It's been great.
Nice. Good to know that. Yeah, as a person from Kenya, wow, what a great journey you had. And I'm a little curious, Michael. To give a tidbit about Michael, he is elected to be the section board of manager for VES, Visual Effects Society, Georgia. And I'm a little curious that how can you manage so many positions like your work, the community, and your family? What is your family, and how can you manage everything together?
As far as the Visual Effects Society, I think this little community that comes with like your profession, I think it's extremely important, and I have a lot of passion for it because for a lot of my professional life, I was just working a lot, which I'm sure everybody is, but you didn't really have, like, other than the people you worked with directly, you didn't really have community. And you didn't have, people who are kind of in the same boat, sailing in the same direction. And that's why I feel like VES is so important, because when we get together and we hang out and talk and catch up, these are all people that are in your profession, and you can network, share ideas. If anything, just have a drink and talk about things that, you can talk shop. You can talk about topics that, like, we all kind of understand because we're in the same profession. It's not stuff you can share with friends who are not working with you and stuff. And I think it's just been great. I hope to have many years supporting that community.
You have a long, from what you said, you have a long journey in VFX, right? Why did you choose the 3D space in that?
I love computers. I found out very early on that I like to make things with computers. And in my personal opinion, there's nothing cooler than making art with computers, right?
Wow.
I think it's, as a kid, it's super inspiring. And you get to you get to get caught up in all the technical details of like what makes a powerful computer. And there's always this time in a young, like maybe like a 3D professional's life where the computer is never powerful enough, right? So like you're always sitting there waiting for renders, like, oh my God, this is going to take forever. And I always just thought that push and pull of that dynamic of trying to make something cool and put in the work and understand the technicalities behind executing it. I just thought it was pretty cool, and I was very interested in that.
That's good to know. So you said you have a great relationship with 3D and with VFX in your life, correct? And I'm also aware that if you want to while away this question, you can actually do that. You are currently working with the software thing that you're developing, right? Would you like to talk about that a little bit?
I can't go into too much detail about that, but what I generally do, what I have been doing for the past, let's say, I think it's like 4 years now. It's about 5 years now, is I've transitioned from being like a 3D generalist to more of a technical pipeline developer. So what I'll do is I'll try to learn different aspects of a graphics pipeline, of how graphics get from like the design phase to being ready to be sent out on air for a production or like a live event, right? And I'll be the middleman that helps develop that workflow and develop tools in that workflow to make things flow easier. I'll be like the middleman, that gets stuff, prepped from point A and ready to go on air at point B. That's kind of what I do. And I've been, over the years, I've gotten familiar with a wide variety of software from like Maya and Blender and various render engines like V-Ray and Arnold to like real-time render engines like Unreal Engine and Expression. Also, I'm using tools like After Effects and Photoshop to do like prep work, some design work. You have to have some understanding of how design works when you get design and need to convert it to something that's useful for production.
Great. That's really a lot of information, actually.
Yeah, it's a lot of technical stuff, but yeah. Sure.
Yeah. What is your favorite software? Like you said, too many softwares, right?
So
like what would be your first to go place? Like if you have something to do, like when you start with some 3D work, what would be your first to go place?
I really like Maya. I think I really like Maya because I've spent the most time there, right? So you like the thing that you're most comfortable with. But I guess a very close second place is Unreal Engine. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, even I had a little bit learning with Unreal Engine. It's really cool. Yeah. Yeah, actually. What is most challenging in your career so far?
I think one of the more challenging parts of the career is to keep learning, right? The environment, the technology, it's constantly changing. And the field that we're in order to produce the best product, you have to kind of keep in touch with what the latest thing is, right? It's not necessarily that that's always going to be the best way to do it, but you kind of have to have an understanding of where it's useful and where it's not. And I think that part is pretty challenging because you still have to keep up your 9 to 5. These are the tasks I need to do, but you have to also make time to learn the new things that are coming out and decide whether they're worthy to be implemented into your pipeline. I think that's challenging, but it's part of it. And once you get going, it's kind of fun. I think it's a great feeling to learn something new that you know is going to be useful, and then have that moment when it's implemented and everything's working. It's very exciting.
I actually kind of not expecting this answer from you, but it is really true. What you said is really true. It is a lot of learning and learning
Always,
always,
it's
right?
constant, and sometimes it's overwhelming because there's so many options, you know. And then which whatever media you're consuming, you find somebody saying, "Oh, over here, this is the best thing, and you should check this out." And then this person's saying, "Oh no, it's this thing over here," and you're just like,
Yeah.
"Why? I don't have time to learn both.
Yeah.
Which one am I going to do?" It takes, it's a struggle, but it's just the nature of the industry we're in.
Makes sense, yeah. And um, with a lot of challenges that you have faced, what is the memorable thing that you have, memorable or significant time that you had during a project, or that you want to share?
For me, honestly, I think the most memorable times of any project are when you're working with people that you have a connection with. That I've done a lot of projects in my time, and yes, some are cooler than others, but I think the thing that to me makes, I don't know, when you look back on it, it's not so much of, yes, I pulled off this thing. It's more this team or these individuals that I worked with, we really overcame this challenge together, right? And we have like a little bond we share. And I think to me, those are like the beautiful moments of working your ass off, late into the night with other people. And, being able to come back around and like maybe get back in touch and talk about the times that you guys had. I think that overcomes any, or to me, that's more valuable than any one project.
So I was thinking to add this question. What are the other challenging aspects that you feel as a person who is more experienced in the VFX industry, right? What are the most challenging aspects in this career that you feel?
I think, well, for me personally, in this career, you work a lot, and to find that balance of what it is that you like to do and who you are outside of work. I think that is, if I'm just going to get personal for a second, I think that's something, as you keep striving to achieve the X, Y, and Z, or whatever it is, right? There's still this other side of you that needs to exist outside of work. And who's your friends and your family and the time you spend with them? And how do you manage that? Do you manage it properly? I think that, I think that's one of the challenges I face, and I think it's worth facing. I think it's important. Not to say that you shouldn't work hard and do all these things, but there is a balance to this stuff, and you got to figure out what it is for you. And I'm trying to figure out what it is for me.
So apart from the projects that you have created, you like to talk about the project you work with Coca-Cola, or anything that you want to talk about, your project, something with Coca-Cola.
Yeah, so a cool project that I got to do with Coca-Cola is I was working with this great company that does contracts for them, and I was part of an awesome team there. And what we're able to do is come up with a production pipeline for them to take artwork and put it through, like, artwork goes through a series of like approvals and edits and all this stuff. Like, let's say it's like label artwork for whatever product. And once that's gone through an approval process, they usually want like 3D renders of it. They want to see what it's going to look like before it gets put into the production pipeline. And so our little niche was to develop a pipeline where once artwork is approved, it can just get sent through, it can get submitted, and sent through a pipeline that we built. And the user would just get back immediately after it's approved. You just submit these pieces of artwork, and you get emailed back to you 3D renders of your design on the product you wanted on. So that was pretty cool. Took a lot of programming work and a lot of like cloud rendering, but it was a very cool project.
Let's go more technical in this time. So when you start a project, a 3D project, how will you start it? So say for example, a client needs to do something. Say if the Coca-Cola itself, for example, if they want to make a 3D object kind of thing with Coca-Cola, then what will be your initial phase of start, and then how do you take that? Like, will you start with the storyboard, or how the discussion will happen? Could you just give us some insights?
Yeah, sure. So you'd go through kind of like what we call like a scope of work, and you try and get the client to flesh out their ideas as best as possible, or to be as specific as possible, and then kind of like reiterate them, because during this like exploratory phase, sometimes people are kind of like thinking out loud, and we're just interfacing our ideas with the outside world, and that's kind of like your job as a professional, to facilitate that and try to get something that is specific to start on. So if it was, let's say, for example, if they're trying to design, or they had ideas for a new vessel or like a new bottle, you would start with like little sketches of like what the silhouette of the shape needs to be, and then work out the details. And what is it, you'd come up with like branding language. What are the things that it's like? What is it not like? And kind of just go from there. You just kind of take all these different ideas. You break the thing up into a bunch of little pieces that we'll all agree on is heading in a direction that we want to go. And then you start the work. And then you start prototyping, right? You'll come up with like different versions of the idea, and you kind of iterate through those versions. So you'll have like version 1, version 2, and then have like a meetup. It really all depends on the specific requirements of the project. Yeah. But otherwise, you just kind of want to, at the beginning, you always want to facilitate a conversation to pin down what it is that the client wants, and try to understand what it is that they want before we get started. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
yeah, it does. So I have this one, individual workflow and teamwork.
Yeah.
What do you prefer and why?
Honestly, I prefer teamwork, because I've been fortunate enough to work with people who are very talented and super inspiring, and that makes me want to be better. And I think that part is great. I think there's a certain self-discipline that comes with like working solo. That is, it comes easier to some than others. I've done solo work for a long time, but yeah, I'd say I prefer working with a team. Mainly because you can accomplish bigger tasks. You can accomplish bigger projects, in my opinion.
Nice. What do you think the future of 3D is going to be, with the rise of AI, and we are also actually able to do some photogrammetry thing also, right, nowadays. According to you, how the future of 3D is going to be?
I think it's pretty exciting. I think that the way it's going to work is that you're going to have an assistant that helps you with many different things. And you're going to have an assistant that's going to help you with, if we're talking about like the beginning parts of a project, it's going to be coming up with, you know, little prototypes of like what it is that you're trying to do. It's going to help you iterate through things faster. I think it's going to help you, you know, model things. You know, I think you'll be able to, let's say for modeling, for example, you'll be able to just come up with basic shapes, and you would have a little AI assistant in whatever 3D program you're using, and it will make sure that your topology is correct and all of this, you know, all of the little details that come along with that. You know, that's just going to be taken care of, and you're going to be more in the seat of making creative decisions, and it will be giving you feedback as to, you know, how to iterate through. Like if you want it to, I don't know, be more green or whatever it is that you're trying to do. AI is going to give you more options and a quicker workflow to do that. I think you're going to be able to execute larger projects on your own, or larger portions of projects on your own, with your little AI assistants.
So you like the rise of AI and you're not against it, right? Just your opinion about it.
And that's the way the tide is going. You know, you jump on the ship, or it's just there's only one direction it's going.
Yeah, it's one direction. It's like choose one, choose one from this. Like
there's still, you know, in the digital world, you know, let's say like take for example like 3D sculpting, right? There's quite a few 3D sculptors out there who have never sculpted anything in real life. Right, but there is still the profession of sculpting.
Yeah,
you see, so I don't know. That's weird. I live in the world of technology, and this is just a new technology. And yeah, I don't know where it's going, but I do know that it's something new to learn, and to see where it's going to be useful.
Yeah, even with something that you said about a sculptor who practiced all his life about sculpting something in 3D, things like that, and with the rise of AI, it can be done maybe not that creative and that detailed, but we can actually create something like that with the rise of AI.
You can be more creative. So, like one cool thing about I really liked, you know, outside of the professional side of just like messing around in Unreal Engine, is you could build these worlds, right? And you could populate them with trees and lakes and you name it, right? You could put little characters in there and run around in there. Now, when AI gets integrated into this software, you know, you're going to be able to build more fantastic worlds. And, you know, your imagination can go wild. And the things that you'd be capable of, like you wouldn't be worrying so much about, you know, how to texture or, you know, this specific object. It would be more like, what does the layout of this city need to look like? It's a totally different perspective.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to worry about the color of the concrete. It's like, no, we need taller buildings on the left-hand side because that's how I want my shot to look.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's the difference between, you know, the old school style of like building everything by hand, or like, I mean, even with the example like well, it's not really, in production, a lot of stuff is like kit bashed. So you have all these pre-made assets that you slap together.
You
right?
mean the marketplace?
Yeah. And even like giant productions, like they have access to a ton of assets, right? So you have like city assets, cars, whatever you can think of, right? AI will just have that at the fingertips of the individual. You know. So yeah, the scale of the projects that you can achieve will just increase significantly, in my opinion. yeah, it'll be like your little superpower.
You have any hack or any technique that you have that can easily do some work? You have that with your experience, like using Maya and other softwares. Do you have any particular hack that you can do something to execute that you want to share? Like you might be facing a very challenging thing in your project, and that may lead you to a and that time you might have got this thing, Eureka! Oh, this one's a great hack.
Oh, yeah, sure. I don't have one hack. I have many.
Oh, wow.
Many. Right? I have hacks I've forgotten, and I'm all about it. I like to, when you're kind of getting started on a project, there's a lot of friction, like getting going. And then sometimes things become repetitive. And as soon as they start to become repetitive, I like to try and figure out how to automate them. Like, I don't really want to keep doing that, right? Or, I want to figure out how things can link together so they can build a bigger whole. And there's all kinds of hacks. I think one of the things that I have found most useful is to make sure that when you set things up, that it is modular and flexible enough to be changed, right? Because you're going to get, once you start interfacing your ideas with the outside world and other people, they're going to be like, they're going to give you feedback, right? And you need to have things set up in a thoughtful way that you can be flexible and pivot. And I think that was one of the main, like, overarching concepts that has been very useful going forward. And also it helps in like a collaborative environment when you're working with other artists, and sharing files and stuff like that. Just being organized and setting things up thoughtfully, and making sure things are named appropriately in the project, and things that need to be locked away or locked off and not being able to touch, all these kind of things. I would consider them not really hacks, but like good practice. And they always seem to, it's always noticeable when somebody hasn't done that, for sure. And that's nothing. I think AI is going to help with that too. You'd be like, hey, little AI assistant, help me with my housekeeping.
Yeah.
Help me clean up this project so I can give it to Hard.
What would be the top 3 plugins that come into your mind in a project? Not in a project, in a software, say. And what that will do actually in the project.
Plugins?
Like, let's come first to your mind.
I go to After Effects. But I don't really, in the last two years of work, I haven't been using a lot of plugins. They need to be installed on my machine because other people are giving me work that they've used plugins with, but I'm not using them anymore. Right?
Okay. Yeah. Share about your family actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. So I'm biracial. My mom is Kenyan and my dad is German. And I have a younger sibling, my brother. He's over in San Francisco. And we're a very tight-knit family. There's only 5 of us here in the U.S. The rest are split up in Germany and in Kenya. And I think I love my family. They're great. They make me who I am. So.
It is great that your family supports your passion and you're gone to this.
Oh, absolutely. We support each other. Yeah.
We have come to the last question.
Sure.
So, what would be your advice for someone who is starting out the VFX or the 3D career?
work hard. Whatever you pick, there's a ton of different directions. I don't, I think whatever you decide to do, be good at it. Work hard to be good at it. You don't have to be, necessarily good at everything, but once you get pretty good at something, you can understand what it takes to get good at it, and then apply it to the other challenges that are going to come your way. So yeah, I would say just pick something that you're interested in, that you'd like to do, and try to figure out what it's going to take to get good at that.
Wonderful. That's great. All right. It was such a pleasure having you, and that was greatly informative and got a lot of insights.
I appreciate being here, and I loved having this conversation.
Thank you so much.